All right, YouTube, Trump has a new target, and that's Senator Blumenthal, who lied about his service, which never happened, in Vietnam. So Trump is helpfully pointing that out to people so they know who Trump's critic will be. This has been a continuous thing for the Dawn. He's using an age-old strategy called the president happens to have the bully pulpit, only he's magnified it tenfold because he's using social media instead of simply making a speech on TV to get picked apart by pundits. And the advantage for him is this. He can give his words directly to the American public in 140 characters or less, or through a release that he puts out on some website, YouTube video, Facebook post, whatever it happens to be, thus bypassing the corporate media altogether. I will point this out one more time for people who don't understand it. The corporate TV-era media is not the only press in this country. They are engaged in activities of the press, loosely speaking at this point, I suppose. But they're not the only press. The press is anyone engaged in the activities of the press. Published a book, published a post online, made a video, whatever it happens to be, that is a protected activity of the press. Your journalistic credibility means nothing. Having a journalism degree doesn't matter insofar as your ability to be part of the press. I'm part of the press. I sit here and analyze politics. I put my opinions out there. I write, I edit. I'm a member of the press. It doesn't require any legal recognition because there's no legal recognition to give. But I'm not part of the corporate media apparatus, producing multi-million-dollar videos or $100,000 book deals and things like that. That's the CNNs and the Foxes and so forth. Trump is bypassing them. He's saying, oh, why do I need them to disseminate what I'm saying? They're not, I mean, most of the time, they're not going to put it out fairly anyway. They're going to cut it apart, and they're going to distribute little bits to people that make me look bad. So why the hell would I want to talk to them? And he's still completely shut out CNN. So what you've got now is a social media era president. This worked during the campaign, and it's going to work now, by the way. He's going to wear his enemies within politics down by browbeating them in front of the public, by putting on a spectacle, by putting on a sort of reality TV show, as it were. For the next 4 years, this is one criticism that's actually apt, we have a reality TV star as our president. Now, we've had an actor for a president before, and that time around, people generally seem to like him okay. It was Ronald Reagan. We've had lawyers as presidents before, some of which were more effective than others. I would ask you this. How exactly is being a corporate lawyer and suing people for using a product improperly training to be the U.S. president? Or learning how to win an election, which is what career politicians who ascend to the presidency really are. Because those two classifications of people are typically who you get as your president. They don't have any specific qualifications for that office. They don't necessarily have leadership skills, no. They're high functioning in the sense of can memorize a bunch of laws and squirm around in court and try to destroy other people's lives. Or conversely, if they're a career politician, they simply know how to get elected. They know how to buddy-buddy with rich people, like Trump, oddly enough, and to squeeze money out of them in order to fool the public. And then the third class would be businessmen. Trump is associated with them without the benefit, perhaps, of political experience before in the past. But he's using the bully pulpit. He's using like the Teddy Roosevelt style of campaigning, only he's continuing it after the election is actually over. And it's working. Yes, his approval rating is below 50%. It is a historically low approval rating, regardless of whether you trust any single poll, and I've told people not to do that. Use an aggregate. It is true, though, that his approval is somewhere in the low 40s right now. It's not particularly good. But it's all he needs. He needs to cater to that fan base, then expand out into the centrists. That's probably what he's planning to do. It's just right now he has to hardball the establishment from within, plan a bunch of staff around him that are at least competent to be his attack dogs to continue that assault. He needs to talk directly to the American people, and for a while, it is going to make him look like an unhinged bully. But he's not an unhinged bully. He's a strategist when he does this. When he did it during the campaign, These same people that have a problem with it now said it will never work, people will wise up, he's evil, he's insane, he's a tyrant. But it worked. And that's all by design. That's not the actual Donald Trump behind closed doors. Behind closed doors, he probably sits, chuckles and cracks jokes and shit. Hangs out with his grandkids or whatever. That's the real Donald Trump. What you see here is the negotiator-in-chief and the strategist-in-chief. And it's working. It will continue to work. His approval, I believe, will rise over time. People will begin to see him as less aggressive around the time that he switches to a more centrist platform, but he has to knock a few important things out of the way first. He has to fill the Supreme Court vacancy, and he's putting someone on there that makes Scalia look like a left-winger, which doesn't rebalance. I mean, it just maintains the former balance of the court, so I don't care, and I say this as someone I don't fucking care about taking away abortion or gay rights or anything. Maybe Gorsuch has different thoughts on that. I would like to think he won't go after them. I would like to think he's more pragmatic than that. He seems like, at the very least, he's sane, as opposed to some zealots that quite clearly are not. Maybe a Sarah Palin or a Michelle Bachmann or something like that. He has to fill the vacancy. He has to do something about immigration, and he has to at least begin the wall. Even if it's a half-assed start to it, simply visibly putting up a single piece of chain link fence will mollify his supporters for a while, because they'll feel like the president is actually intending to carry through his campaign promises. While all of that is ongoing, once the process has begun there, he can switch to a more centrist platform, largely based on reform the tax code and continue slashing regulations. And he'll be a money president. He's not going to be a hawk president who starts bombing other countries for no reason. He may hardball the Chinese, and in a way, who can blame him, and can we even do anything to stop that from being necessary anyway? As far as Russia goes, though, he's not hardballing them. It doesn't appear that he's really going to do anything about Iran, and there's no reason to, since they'll never have nuclear weapons anyway. Netanyahu and all of his idiot buddies have been proclaiming that they'd have them real soon since the middle of the 1990s, and it fucking never happened. And it's not going to happen. The Russians would probably invade him if they actually made a significant attempt to try to test an atomic weapon anyway. They don't want any more competition. They don't want to have a possible regime change in the Middle East and lose control of an atomic power. Be a little bit like if we overthrew the government of North Korea. If China ever got wind that that was going to happen, they'd go in and they'd kill Kim himself. They'd go in guns a-blazing, and they wouldn't even wait for our tactics to take hold. So, Trump is using a bully pulpit right now. He's going after Blumenthal. He's going after others within politics. And mostly, if you look, he's focusing on people who are essentially career politicians. He's leaving many of the others alone. And he's already gotten many of those others on his side anyway. It's really a tale of the recent insiders versus the longtime old guard GOP establishment in collusion with some of the neoliberal Democrats. And Trump is headhunting after them one by one. He knows he can scare them into being silent. And that's not tyranny. These individuals, for successive administrations, through Obama, many earlier into Bush, some earlier into Clinton, and even further back, Herbert Walker years or something like that, these people have been the architects of tyranny in our country for a long time. It took two parties to tango. It took two parties to get us involved in Iraq. And earlier, I see a post by Business Insider, Trump should apologize for criticizing the Iraq war because it worked. I'm like, you're nuts? Are you fucking crazy? The Iraq war was a success. Okay, great, yeah. Try explaining that one in more coherent terms. I expect a 2,000-word paper by morning or something like that. It's just madness. People would look at Trump and say that he's acting tyrannically. He's attacking other people within the government. That's not the hallmark of a tyrant, typically speaking. You would expect him, if he was going to be a tyrant, he would schmooze with these people. He'd give them kickbacks, take donations, and so forth. Build some sort of unholy neocon alliance, which would be easy to do since he's got an R after his name. And then he'd be buddy-buddy with them, and he'd keep grinding people slowly down like W did or like Obama did. He's not doing that. He's using the bully pulpit, appealing directly to the American public. He doesn't care whether 60% of the people in this country don't like him, because they don't need to like him. He needs a large minority of the population to support him, so he can continue to justify his early platform. Then he can expand the coalition of people who like what he's doing. But we've got years and years to wait here. You think he's going to focus for 4 entire years just on issues that are divisive? It's not going to happen. That would be a bad strategy. And Trump did not get where he is in life by having bad strategies in mind, generally speaking, other than maybe Atlantic City, let's face it. So yeah, he's going after Blumenthal, somewhat deservedly, because it looks like Blumenthal misquoted Gorsuch on his statements regarding the judiciary. He was speaking in a general sense. Blumenthal made it seem like specifically Trump was an evildoer and attacking the judicial branch at large on a constant basis. It turns out that's not exactly what was meant, and that Gorsuch, he's still an ally of Trump. He is the goddamn Supreme Court appointee that Trump has in mind. And he'll get confirmed, by the way. He'll be there. Just like Jeff Sessions. As far as his cabinet goes, there are people that Trump has put into positions that I like less than others. Like DeVos there. Education crap there. Now, there's also, it looks like there might be some funny business, though, with DeVos. It looks like Trump's actual goal is to get rid of the Department of Education, which, good riddance. It's a burden. It actually decreases our educational attainment over time by federalizing what should be local policies based on different groups of people needing different jobs and so forth within the states. It should be handled more locally and at the state level. Trump may be maneuvering to actually put someone there who's so inept that it justifies getting rid of the department altogether. Oh, well, I put her in there. She can't do her job. Nobody can do the job. So we're gonna fucking get rid of the DE or something like that. Be a little bit like putting Ron Paul in as the head of the IRS, I suppose, and then axing the program. Say, oh, well, the head of the agency suggests that the agency shouldn't even exist because he finds that its functions overlap with others and are unconstitutional and crappy. And he should do something like that, honestly. He should be working with Ron Paul. He should get Ron and Rand and Amash and Kucinich even, and a few of these others on board, and figure out a way to perpetuate more liberty. Whether he does that or not remains to be seen. But I still have hope for his presidency because he almost immediately tackled several of his major campaign promises, to the point at which the media criticized him for being concerned with his campaign promises. That's something new. I've never heard that before, probably because in living memory we haven't had a president who was focused on fulfilling any of their campaign promises. Obama? No, yeah. W? Oh, God. Bubba Bill, Herbert Walker, Ronald Reagan. None of them did. Maybe one or two here and there throughout the course of their first term, if applicable, their second term. Trump's managed to knock it out of the park and do more of his campaign promises in the first 100 days so far than any other living president has in their entire career. But I have hope because he's speaking directly to the American people, and it does matter. It does matter that he's bypassing the corporate media. The corporate media, largely, they're the ones that convinced a lot of people we should invade Iraq in the first place. They're the ones that convince people to sit down and shut up when there's mass surveillance. They're the ones that beat the drums of war more loudly than anybody else. Why on earth would we care that the president should mollycoddle them and smooth out their wrinkles and pat them on the head and send them on their merry way? I don't think they should at all. I think that DC should entirely shut out the corporate media. I think that it should be the new wave, the underbelly of the media, the alternative media. People who are using Skype and YouTube and Twitter and stuff, they should be the ones largely asking questions and communicating because they don't represent corporate bodies. In fact, when the left says, oh, Trump is being mean to CNN or whatever, you're saying that you have a problem with the President of the United States going after a dishonest corporation that lies to people constantly. That's what you're saying. Because I can remember years ago you had no love of any branch of the corporate media, no matter how left-wing it supposedly was. I can remember that myself, back when you would say, well, MSNBC is just still part of the problem too. They're like half-assed leftists, half-assed anti-war rhetoric and so forth. They're not pushing enough for impeachment of W or something like that. And you were right at the time. But now you're going to sit there and defend the same corporate bodies that fed you Iraq, fed you Afghanistan, fed you the NSA, fed you just shut up. Don't worry, Obama can do no wrong. Oh, W is trying to be patriotic. He just makes a gaffe once in a while. You're going to trust them? I don't. I think it's great that he's not giving the time of day to these assholes. That's about all. Peace out.